Welcome to the Cheating Wife Stories channel. I locked her in the bathroom, slammed the door, turned the cheap brass bolt from the outside. I stood there for a second, my palm on the hollow wood, feeling her pounding and shouting. Her breathing was too easy, like she had no right to panic. I tasted salt in my mouth. Sweat or tears, I couldn't tell. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3, and I left. I don't even remember stepping outside, just that my keys fell to the sidewalk, and my hands wouldn't stop trembling. The night sky was black and orange, the streetlights dull like half-dead fireflies. My name is Dan Cooper. We've been married 9 years. She's inside that bathroom, begging, telling me, "Don't leave. It's not what you think." As if that might change the truth. And the truth is shaped like a letter I wasn't supposed to read. Let me rewind. Flash. Freeze. Everything was normal once. We had a routine. A daughter who called me daddy, hair ribbons, peanut butter sandwiches, Sunday dinners. I was the kind of man who left for work at 7:15 every morning, gave my wife a peck on the cheek, commuted in mild traffic, told my boss, no problem at least 10 times a day, and came home with a small leftover reservoir of patience for bedtime stories. One day, I was heading back from the hardware store, had to pick up replacement screws for a broken curtain rod, when I saw an envelope lying precariously at the edge of our mailbox. The mailbox door was stuck open. I figured it was just another store flyer, or maybe a neighbor's misdelivered item. I only meant to slide it back in or carry it inside for Rebecca to see. But it was open, unsealed, just a thin slip of paper peeking out. My name wasn't on the front. Hers was, but in a swirl of messy letters. Inside, "You taste like danger," and I never knew I liked the flavor. I remember reading that line twice. My mind stuck on the word danger. The letter was short. The handwriting was sloppy, half in print, half in cursive, like the writer was in a rush or just excited. I read it again in the driveway, hand shaking so hard I dropped the envelope. Picked it up, forced myself to keep going. There was a paragraph about the motel, a small detail about the shower that made my stomach roll. And something else, the test results. A baby. My baby? No, someone else's baby. Jonah wrote that DNA proved it wasn't mine. The girl who's been calling me daddy for the past 5 years, brightening every room with her little grin. This letter said she's not mine. I remember stumbling inside. Rebecca was in the kitchen, humming softly as she stirred some sauce. She didn't notice me. Didn't see how my eyes were burning or how I was strangling the letter in my fist. "Everything okay, honey?" she asked. Her voice sounded thick, the words echoing in my skull. "You taste like danger. Danger. Danger." That was a week ago. Feels like a century. My life split wide open from that point, pieces scattering across the living room floor. I tried confronting her that night, but something clogged my throat. Instead, I told her I was tired, that I wanted to shower. She just nodded, went back to stirring. She had no idea. The affair. I see glimpses of it now in my memory's rearview mirror. Like the way she'd come home some nights with a different glow, a flush creeping up her neck, or how she spent more time texting, always with the phone angled away from me. A casual twist of her wrist. She started wearing perfume that I never bought. Still, I never demanded answers. I was comfortable, trusting. Stupid. It took me 3 days of choking on my own silence before I decided I had to confirm. So I followed her after work. I made up some excuse at the office, claimed I had a sick cousin in the ER, left early, parked around the corner from her building, watched her get into her Lexus, phone pressed to her ear. She drove to the other side of town, near a scuzzy row of motels lit by neon signs that flickered in and out like broken promises. She pulled into a spot. When she killed the engine, I slipped out of my car, kept my distance, tried not to breathe too loud. It was a pale, bluish evening. The city lights gave everything an eerie glow, and the motel's vacancy sign flickered yellow. Rebecca climbed out. I saw her stand there, smoothing her skirt, scanning the lot. Then from the shadows emerged a young guy. Brown hair, lean, a little swagger in his step. They said a few words to each other. I couldn't hear them. Then they went inside. I waited maybe 15 minutes before the door opened a crack, letting out a slice of dull gold light that spilled across the damp walkway. I crept to the window, making sure I stayed out of direct view. The curtains were thin. I could see their silhouettes. He kissed her neck, slowly, then her mouth, deeper. She leaned her head back, like it was effortless, natural, something she'd done dozens of times before. My brain was screaming at me to stop looking, but I couldn't tear myself away. Their shadows moved as if in a dance, her hands around his shoulders, his hands cupping her waist. Then his fingers slipped under her blouse, and she let out a soft sound that struck me like a bullet. My wife, moaning for another man. I wanted to rush in, fists swinging, or run away so I'd never have to face what was behind that window. Instead, I just froze, pinned to that dirty motel walkway, my mouth hanging open like a fool. I barely breathed. They sank down onto the bed, the covers bunched up beneath them. Their bodies moved in tandem. Her back arched, a curve I recognized. But with him, I saw him bury his face in the crook of her neck. I caught a flash of her open mouth, eyes closed, lost in the moment. The neon sign outside flickered, painting them in pulses of yellow and black. I don't know how long I stood there. It felt like hours, and for every second, something in me cracked. By the time I staggered back to my car, I was broken, hollowed out. My hands were ice. My chest was a furnace. I clutched the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. The next day, I tried to pretend it never happened. Went to work, looked at my colleagues, answered emails. She texted me a simple dinner at 7. Love you. As if everything was normal. I stared at the screen, hands trembling. My eyes burned with images I couldn't unsee. That night, we sat at the table, our daughter happily chattering about school. I mumbled something about a new project at work. Rebecca gave me that sympathetic nod, asked if I was too stressed. I shook my head. The letter was in my pocket the entire meal, folded into a small square. I could feel it scorching me. I'm not proud of what I did next. Destruction can feel strangely calm, like you're stepping out of yourself. I left small gifts, acts of sabotage, invisible punishments. She had that Lexus she was so proud of. Silver paint, black leather seats, a shiny new stereo system. I waited until midnight, when the moon was a thin, pale scythe, and doused the interior with gasoline. Stood there in the driveway with a lighter in my hand. I can't describe the numbness. The spark caught, and flames roared up in seconds. They turned from blue to bright orange, reflection dancing on my face. Then I walked away, left it to burn. She never reported it. She must have known. In the morning, she stood there in the driveway, looking at the charred metal, calling the insurance company. Her voice trembled. She said vandalism, but she didn't look at me. She had to suspect. Or maybe not. She was quiet for days afterward. Cooked me eggs in the morning, over easy, the way I used to like them. Slipped little notes in my lunch again. I love you, always in her curly handwriting. An attempt at normalcy, but she was glancing over her shoulder at every turn. Then I shattered the bedroom window with a baseball bat while she was in the shower. Didn't say a word. She came out in a towel to find shards of glass on the carpet. I was in the hallway, my breath ragged. She opened her mouth to ask why. I just stared at her. She stammered something about stress, about how we'd get it replaced. She never accused me. She just looked afraid. I erased photos from my phone. The pictures of us kissing in front of the Golden Gate Bridge, the snapshots of our daughter blowing out birthday candles. I cleared them all. Then I took our old sneakers, the ones we bought at the same time when we decided to start running together, and I burned them in the yard. Just stuffed them in the grill, and stood there until the flame died. Her breathing was too easy. Mine was on the verge of strangling me. Danger, that letter said. She tasted like danger, and she wanted more. It's not just the affair, it's the doubt about our daughter. The letter mentioned a test. A casual line. We can confirm I'm the father. So is it true? This question is a worm in my skull. My little girl, my sunshine, my only real reason to keep going. Maybe she's not even mine. 5 years of bedtime stories, dollhouse tea parties, teaching her to ride a bike. Every memory tainted by the possibility that I've been living a lie from day one. But part of me can't push her away. She's innocent in all this. She's still a child who calls me daddy, who runs into my arms at pickup time, who kisses my cheek and smears peanut butter on my tie. If I lose that, I lose everything. But how can I look at her now without wondering? Rebecca walks around the house, stepping softly, eyes red from crying. She tries to put on a brave face for our daughter. She stammers out half apologies, half explanations to me. It wasn't planned, she says in hushed tones when our child's out of earshot. I was lonely. I needed something, Dan. I'm sorry, but I can't unhear the moans through that motel window. I can't unsee that letter's bold lines. Now we're at the bathroom scene. She was in the shower again, trying to wash away the stench of guilt. I was outside the door, fists clenched. My heart thundered. I realized I couldn't bear the walls anymore, the silence, the suffocating pretense. So I rushed in. She was dripping wet, hair plastered to her face. Steam curled around her body like a ghost. Dan, she said, startled, hugging a towel to her chest. I stared at her. All those nights I spent believing I was the only man who saw her like this. I felt rage coil in my gut. I stepped forward, and she backed away. Something in my eyes must have terrified her. She tried to speak. Please, talk to me. I know you're hurting. I saw her lips tremble. She took a breath, but it was too light, too easy. That was the moment. I grabbed her wrist, pulled her into the bathroom. As I left, I slammed the door, turned the lock from outside. Cheap trick I learned from years of tinkering with the house. Now she was trapped, pounding on the door, screaming my name. And I walked away, or stumbled away, to be precise. My head felt stuffed with thick cotton. My lungs refused to open fully. But I made it to the street, dropped my keys, fumbled them into my pocket again. The meltdown was imminent. My phone rang inside my jacket. Her name on the screen. I ignored it. Blue. That night was tinted all in this hazy, electric blue from the old street lamps. I started walking, aimless, with no destination. My shoes scraped the sidewalk. My breath was loud in my ears. Each exhale was like a broken cough. At some point, the sky turned a dull, dirty yellow from the city's light pollution. Car headlights danced across parked vehicles, making the metal glint in short bursts. I wandered past rows of cookie-cutter houses, each one with a lawn and a fence and a promise of normalcy. But I felt outside of it all, like I was watching a documentary about someone else's life. My fists were jammed into my coat pockets. The letter had been in there for days, but I'd left it at home. Didn't matter. I memorized every word. I never knew I liked the flavor of danger, repeated in my head, over and over. Danger, danger. Eventually, I ended up at a dive bar, a place with a flickering red sign that said simply, "Open." I went in, sat at the far corner, ordered a whiskey. The bartender was an older guy with a broad nose, looked half asleep. He didn't say a word, just slid the glass across the counter. I tossed it back, the burn anchoring me, ordered another. I closed my eyes, tried not to see her face, but all I could see was her body, pinned beneath that intern, arching in pleasure. The memory stung like acid behind my eyelids. I'm not sure how long I sat there, but eventually my phone buzzed again. Missed calls from her, from a neighbor, maybe. Probably she'd gotten out. I imagined she'd jimmied the lock or used some hairpin. She might be calling the police, telling them I'd locked her in. I didn't care. Jail might feel like a relief. I left the bar. The air outside tasted stale, cold. I walked under the flickering yellow streetlights again, every step matched by a surge of bitterness. A car rolled by, headlights sweeping across my face. I turned away. My shadow flickered against a fence, tall and lean, just like me. I thought about our daughter. Would she be in bed? Would she notice that Daddy wasn't home yet? My chest twisted at the thought. She's not mine. Or maybe she is. I don't know. The letter says she's not. But maybe that was a guess. Or a test from the lover. I shook my head, furious at how uncertain everything had become. Eventually, I ended up back at the house. It was after midnight, presumably. Quiet. The bathroom light was off. The bedroom window, well, the new piece of plywood we put up, was dark. I stood on the lawn. The black outline of the burned Lexus still crouched in the driveway like a skeleton. Night insects hummed. My heart hammered, and I realized I was actually scared to walk inside. Scared of what I might do, or say, or break. But I did it anyway. The front door was unlocked. I stepped into the hallway. The overhead light was a weak, dull glow. She sat on the couch, knees drawn up, hair still damp, wearing my old robe. She looked up. Her eyes were puffy. I could see the sheen of tears on her cheeks. For a moment, we just stared. Then she parted her lips as if to speak, but her voice came out in a hoarse whisper. Dan, you locked me in. I didn't respond. I couldn't. I sank into a chair across from her, chest tight, words tangled in my throat. My face felt like stone. She cleared her throat, pulled the robe tighter. I know you know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You have every right to hate me, or punish me. But please, remember our daughter. She needs you, no matter what. I need you. I wanted to say something vicious, or maybe just laugh in her face. Instead, I forced out a short phrase. That letter. About her. My voice cracked. She winced. She nodded, tears welling. We, Jonah and I. When I found out I was pregnant, I didn't. We did a test. It said you weren't the father. But I wasn't sure. There was always a doubt. The results could have been messed up. I didn't know. I didn't want to break you. My chest tightened again. Break me. You did anyway. She buried her face in her hands. Her shoulders shook. I could see her ribs expanding with sobs. She tried to speak through them. I was stupid, Dan. I was lonely. You were so busy, so distant, always preoccupied. And Jonah, he's younger, he paid attention, he made me feel alive. I messed everything up, but I never wanted it to hurt you like this. I looked away. My voice, when it emerged, was raw. It's not about me. It's about everything. My life is a lie. That was when my voice gave out. Something in me twisted, an invisible coil snapping. I found myself gasping, the tears burning behind my lids. I hated myself for it. I'm a grown man, an engineer, a father. I'm supposed to be strong. But I felt undone. She crawled across the floor on her knees, reached for me. Please, she whispered. Let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. I flinched from her touch. No, I muttered. Then, don't. My words were clipped, strangled. She hovered there, arms trembling, face streaked with tears. Finally, she withdrew, back onto the couch, hugging a pillow as if it were a life raft. We spent the night in that tortured silence. Her sniffles broke the stillness every so often. I stared at the floor, hearing a dull hum in my ears. Our daughter slept upstairs, oblivious, probably dreaming sweet dreams. The memory of that motel room swarmed my mind, images flashing like a repeating film reel. The next few days were a blur. She tried to tiptoe around me, cooked meals, packed lunches with love notes, whispered apologies, half-hearted pleas for forgiveness. I refused to engage. I spent more time in the garage, fiddling with my old project car that was half rust, half memory. I'd slammed the hood. She'd come to the doorway, watching me. She looked exhausted, brittle, but my chest was hollow, my fuse short. When she started to say something about a couples counselor, I cut her off with a single word. No, that's how it went. Days turned into nights, nights into an endless loop of tension. I couldn't stand looking at her, couldn't stand not looking at her either. She tried to show me pictures of our daughter, small videos on her phone. Look at her playing with Grandpa, she'd say in a soft voice. Please don't shut her out. I'd walk away. One evening, I found myself in the living room with a half-empty whiskey bottle. Our daughter was at a friend's sleepover. I was watching some mindless show on TV. The volume turned low. Rebecca came in, hesitated. She sat beside me, leaving a careful gap. She smelled faintly of lavender. I kept my eyes on the screen, but I couldn't concentrate on anything except the heat of her body near mine. Eventually, she spoke. Dan, do you remember our wedding day? When the priest asked if we promised to stay together through better or worse, I saw tears in your eyes. I didn't respond. She continued, voice trembling. I always thought we had that we could weather any storm. I made the storm, I know. But can we? Something snapped in me. Stop, I said, louder than I intended. I felt my voice slip away, replaced by a ragged hiss. Don't bring up that day. Don't. You gave yourself away. This. I gestured to the ring on her finger. This is worthless now. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Then she nodded slowly, tears clinging to her lashes. For a moment, I thought she might speak. Instead, she left the room, shoulders shaking. I listened as she walked up the stairs, her footsteps muffled on the carpet. That night, I slept on the couch. Dreams that made no sense. Images of fire, broken glass, my daughter's face looking at me in confusion. Woke up drenched in sweat, with the TV still glowing in the corner. I never actually met Jonah in person until the day he came looking for her. It was about 2 weeks after I locked her in the bathroom, though the days felt like sludge, all blurring together. I opened the door, and there he was, in a neat button-down, pants too tight around his skinny hips, hair styled carefully like he was trying to appear older. He blinked at me, face pale. Hi. Mr. Cooper. My pulse hammered. I recognized him from the motel window. The arrogance in his posture, the slight grin that said he was too young to fear consequences. But now, seeing him up close, there was a flicker of fear in his eyes. Good, you, I said flatly. He swallowed, glancing past me into the hallway. Is Rebecca home? My hand clenched the doorframe so hard I thought it might splinter. She's busy, I said. What do you want? He shifted uneasily. She hasn't answered my calls or texts. I need to talk to her. We have a project at the firm. And also about everything. I want to, I don't know, explain myself. My breath came sharp, almost a hiss. Explain yourself to me, then. The door was half open. I considered slamming it in his face, or slamming it on his scrawny neck. But a sick part of me wanted to hear him stammer, wanted to see him sweat. He opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. I'm sorry, he said, voice wavering. I didn't mean to wreck anything. She told me she was unhappy, that you two were drifting apart. I'm younger, yeah, and maybe I got carried away. But I care about her. I care about the kid too. My jaw tightened. Care about her, do you? That's sweet. Are you sure you're not just craving something older than your usual fling? He winced. It wasn't like that. He glanced at the ground. We did the DNA test. It said I'm the father. I just wanted to do right by her. By them. But everything's gone crazy. I let out a low laugh, bitter as bile. You think you can just show up with your righteous face and talk about doing right? You destroyed my marriage. You. My throat closed. I forced words through. You took from me what was never yours to take. He looked genuinely stricken. I'm sorry, man. I'm so sorry. I know it's messed up. But I want to help. Or fix it. Or I don't know. I stepped forward, forcing him to back away onto the porch. I could see the color draining from his cheeks. There's no fixing this, I said softly. You do realize that, don't you? You can't fix the fact that I watched you with her through a motel window. That I read your letter. That I may lose my daughter because of you. My voice wavered on that last line. I cursed under my breath. He said nothing, just stood there, eyes flicking around as if hoping for an escape. Finally, he cleared his throat. I'll go. He turned, almost tripping over his own feet. Then he paused, looked back over his shoulder, eyes wet. I never meant. Get off my property, I snarled. He left. I slammed the door, chest heaving. Leaned against the wood, feeling a tremor race through my limbs. Then I heard a step on the stairs. Rebecca stood there, arms crossed over her stomach, tears in her eyes. She'd heard everything. She didn't speak. I stared at her for a long moment. Then I turned, grabbed my jacket, and left. I needed space, an exorcism from the poison pumping through my veins. The next day, I spent hours driving with no destination. The city blurred by. The lonely highway stretched out, shimmering in the sun. I recalled bits of our life. Rebecca's laugh the day we brought our daughter home. The early morning snuggles before work. The moment I proposed to her in a small cafe in Chicago. All of it overshadowed now by the memory of that cheap motel room. I wanted to tear my brain out, to unlearn it all. But in the end, a thread of logic pulled me back. Our daughter was 5, asking for me, waiting. She had done nothing wrong. She was just the living proof that my wife's affair started sooner than I ever suspected. Or maybe the test was a lie. Maybe I was the father. Did it even matter? I've raised her. I love her. She's my girl. Even if my wife is a liar, even if my life is a wreck, that kid deserves better. So that evening I came home. Rebecca met me in the living room. She looked wrung out, eyes rimmed with sleepless bruises. She stood up from the couch when I entered. Dan, she said softly. I said nothing, just put down my keys. Our daughter rushed in from the kitchen, arms open wide. Daddy, she laughed, jumped into my arms. I held her, burying my face in her hair. She giggled. Did you bring me anything? I shook my head, forced a smile for her. Just me, kiddo. She grinned. That's enough. Her eyes sparkled. The wave of love and guilt that crashed over me nearly knocked me off balance. I squeezed her until she complained I was squishing her. Then she squirmed free and went back into the kitchen to finish her drawings. I looked at Rebecca. We need to talk, I said. She nodded. We sat at the table, across from each other. My fists were clenched on the surface. Her hands trembled. Jonah came by, she whispered. I know, I said. I sent him packing. She let out a shaking breath. We can't keep going like this. I pressed my lips together. I know. She blinked away tears. I know you hate me. You have every reason to. But I don't want our daughter, your daughter, Dan, always your daughter, to suffer. I'll do anything, absolutely anything, to prove that, to fix what I can. Something inside me flickered, an ember of bitterness. You can't change what happened. It's burned into my head, into my life. Then my voice dropped to a whisper. But I don't want her to pay for your sins. Rebecca nodded, tears rolling silently. What do you want me to do? I couldn't answer that. I just stared at the table, the dull overhead light painting everything in a washed-out yellow. She reached a hand toward me. For a moment, I let it linger there, not quite touching me, a few inches away. Then I stood and walked away. Days melted into each other. Some nights, I came home, had dinner with them, tried to pretend. Some nights, I went out, ended up at the bar or in my car, parked by the water, just staring at the black waves. I was unraveling. My anger twisted into desperation. I had fantasies of violence, of finding Jonah and making him regret everything. But it felt empty. Harming him wouldn't erase the images I had, wouldn't glue my life back together. Rebecca tried to coax me into counseling again. I refused. She tried to talk about the test results, to see if we could do a new test, maybe prove I was the father after all. I told her I didn't trust her enough to do that. She broke down crying on the floor. I walked away. One night, I was awakened by soft sobbing from the bedroom. I was still sleeping on the couch, but I heard her through the thin walls. She was muffling her cries into a pillow, probably. My chest felt tight. I stared at the dark ceiling, silent, and then came the final blow. I found a business card in her purse when I was frantically searching for her car keys. She'd misplaced them, I thought. The card belonged to a divorce attorney. A wave of panic shot through me. So that was her plan. Leave me. Destroy me. She had the nerve to keep that quiet. But that evening, when I confronted her, her eyes went wide. She swore up and down she only took the card because she thought I might leave her and wanted to be prepared. I'm not leaving you, she said, voice trembling. I'm scared you'll walk out. I've been a mess since the day you found out. She sank to her knees in front of me, tears streaking her face. I didn't know what else to do. I believed her, partially, but something in me snapped. Enough. Enough heartbreak, enough suspicion, enough living in a haunted house. That night, we had another argument. Our daughter was with a babysitter down the street, a sleepover. We didn't hold back. Her voice was high, frantic. My words were clipped, short, loaded with venom. She tried to explain how the affair started, said it was a few months of tension at home, arguments about finances, job stress, us drifting. Then Jonah, young and eager, gave her a little spark. One night after some drinks, it escalated to a kiss. Next thing she knew, she was pregnant. She panicked. He convinced her to take a test behind my back. The results hammered them both. She felt guilty, wanted to end it, but somehow kept slipping back into his arms. She admitted the motel was a routine escape. I told her about the motel window, how I watched them. Her face went ashen. She looked ready to vomit. I'm sorry, she kept saying, tears streaming. Some part of me wanted to hold her, the way I used to, and promised to fix it. Another part wanted to break something. Instead, I stepped into the garage. She followed me, still in tears, fear etched on her features. I rummaged through the shelves until I found an old bin of random items from our early marriage. Dried corsages from a wedding we attended, a few Polaroids, a cheap bracelet I'd bought her at a fair. She had loved that bracelet once. I tossed it aside like trash. She stood in the doorway, hugging herself. Dan, please, we can't just throw everything away. I looked at her, heart pounding. We already did, I said softly. Then I turned, found a gas can. She stiffened. I gave her a long look. You know what this is for? She shook her head, lip quivering. I wanted to threaten something, maybe burn more of her possessions, but the moment felt hollow. The rage had eaten me for too long. I was just tired. I put the can down. The tension in her shoulders sagged. She tried to approach, eyes red, body trembling. Please, she whispered. I love you. I never stopped. We can try to put the pieces back together. I inhaled, my breath catching. My voice cracked. Your love, it's not enough. Her eyes brimmed with tears. She stood there, lost, while I walked out. The next morning, I made a decision. Called a friend who had a cabin up north. Told him I needed space for a few days. Grabbed a duffel bag, threw in some clothes, basic necessities. I was heading out the door when she saw me. Where are you going? She asked, eyes wide. Anywhere but here, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. She tried to block the door. I eased her aside gently. She clutched my arm, tears in her eyes. No, don't. Please, don't leave me like this. I looked at her, chest heavy. I need to breathe. She started sobbing, sank to her knees on the foyer floor. I didn't look back as I walked out. That memory, that final image of her crumpled on the tile, burned into my mind. The cabin was cold, drafty, not exactly inviting. But it gave me silence. No pressing demands, no illusions of family dinners. I spent hours just staring at the lake, black water rippling under a gray sky. Sometimes a flash of sunlight turned it a dull yellow, reminiscent of that motel sign. Nights were dark blue, endless, swallowing me. I tried not to think, but memories seeped in anyway. In my head, I replayed our wedding vows, our early days, and the motel scene. I remembered her laugh, the way her hand fit mine, the small scar on her knee. I also remembered her letter from Jonah, that line about danger, that humiliating moment at the window. My mind cut between them like a poorly spliced reel. No rest, no peace. I read some old text messages I still had stored, from a couple of years back. She was telling me she loved me, missed me while I was on a work trip, thanked me for the thoughtful gift I'd sent. I stared at the words until they blurred. Where did that version of us go? After a week I returned. I needed to see my daughter, to figure out my next step. When I walked in, the living room felt emptier. She'd rearranged some furniture, or maybe thrown something away. Our daughter squealed with delight upon seeing me, jumped into my arms again. My heart soared and broke at the same time. Rebecca stood in the background, eyes puffy, wearing a plain t-shirt and sweatpants. She looked smaller. "Welcome home," she said quietly. I just nodded. Our daughter dragged me to the kitchen table to show me some artwork. Crayon scribbles of a house, 3 stick figures. She pointed. "That's me, that's Mommy, that's you." She looked up at me, beaming. "See? Our family." I swallowed hard. Rebecca hovered behind her, arms crossed. I saw her lip tremble. I managed a smile for my daughter, told her how proud I was. But in my gut, the truth churned. Is that family real, or just an illusion? The short, cold, destructive final. Let me set the stage. After my daughter went to bed, Rebecca and I ended up in the dimly lit kitchen. The overhead bulb was dying, giving off a dull yellow hum. We stood there facing each other, neither quite sure how to start. She asked if I'd eaten. I shook my head. She offered me dinner, but I refused. I could barely swallow water, let alone food. She bit her lip, spoke quietly. "I'm not pregnant now, if that's what you were worried about. I've been tested. There's nothing else happening. I ended everything with Jonah. I want to fix this, Dan." I stared at her, my chest heavy. "It's too late," I said, voice strained. "You made choices. I made mine. We're past the point of repair." She reached for my hand. "We can't be," she whispered. "We have a child together." That word, together, sliced through me. I pulled my hand back. Maybe I'm not her father. Her face contorted in pain. "Dan, that letter was from 5 years ago. The test could have been wrong. And even if it wasn't, you're still the man who's raised her. You're her dad." I laughed, a hollow sound, my voice cracking. "This is some twisted logic, you know that." She flinched. I saw tears well up, but she stayed silent, hoping I'd keep talking, hoping for redemption. I turned away, gazed at the reflection of our silhouettes in the dark window. "All these years," I said softly. "All that trust. Gone." She tried to step closer. I didn't move. She pressed her forehead against my back. "I don't know how to make you believe me," she whispered, tears soaking through my shirt. "But it was never about not loving you. It was about me being weak, craving attention, excitement." I shook my head, throat tight. "That's not love. That's just betrayal disguised as some romantic fantasy." My voice caught again, so I paused. then forced the last words out. "You destroyed me, Beck, and you destroyed us." She wept quietly. "I know, but I'm willing to spend the rest of my life making it up to you." I turned, lifted her chin with a single finger so she looked me in the eyes. "I can't live in a graveyard of regrets. I'm done. Do you understand?" Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She nodded slowly, tears coursing down her cheeks. I deserve this." I pulled away. My shoulders slumped. My body felt drained, like I'd run a marathon with no finish line in sight. "I'll pack some things," I said. "I'm leaving in the morning." She stood there, frozen, as I walked upstairs. I didn't sleep that night. Just stared at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the air conditioner, the quiet of the house. In the early hours, I heard her footsteps approach the door. She paused, maybe listening for signs I was awake. Then she moved away. I lay there until sunrise tinted the sky a pale, sickly yellow. Morning. Our daughter woke early, rubbed her eyes. She asked me to tie the ribbon in her hair before she went to preschool. I did it, hands shaking, my throat tight with unshed tears. Then I kissed her on the forehead. She giggled. "Daddy, you look sad." I forced a smile. "Just tired, sweetie." She ran off to find her backpack. Rebecca stood by, silent, arms hugging her waist. After we dropped our daughter off, I drove back home, parked in front of the house, the same place where I first found that cursed letter. I glanced at the burnt husk of the Lexus, still there, half covered by a tarp, a testament to my quiet, angry rampage. Rebecca came inside with me. I grabbed my duffel bag. She stood by the stairs. "What will you do?" she asked, voice trembling. I shrugged, lying through my teeth. "Not sure. Maybe stay at a motel for a bit." Funny how that word stuck in my mouth. Motel. A place that wrecked everything. She wiped her eyes. "Can I call you?" I took a moment, then nodded curtly. "About our daughter, yes. Otherwise, no." She crumpled, but held her voice steady. "I'm sorry," she said again, for what felt like the 1,000th time. I walked to the door. Paused. "So am I," I said, though I wasn't sure what I meant. Then I stepped outside into the harsh mid-morning light. I put the key in the ignition and sat there, stunned by the wave of finality. My reflection in the rearview mirror looked foreign. Eyes bloodshot, jaw set, hair disheveled. A man undone. But I had to move, to breathe, to be free. So I turned the engine, reversed out of the driveway, and left behind the house, the broken window, the ashes of the Lexus. Left behind the illusions of the life I'd built. As I pulled onto the main road, I felt the strangling grip on my chest loosen a fraction. I drove past the hardware store where I'd first seen that damned letter, past the neat rows of houses that used to look welcoming. Now they just looked like cheap sets on a stage. I told myself I was done. Told myself there was nothing left to burn or break or salvage. The dull roar of the engine filled my ears, and I kept driving until the city gave way to open highway. The sky was a bleached blue overhead. The sun glared at me, unblinking. My phone lit up with a message, Rebecca's name on the screen. I didn't open it. I accelerated, listened to the tires hum on the asphalt. My mind drifted to my daughter, her bright laughter, her arms around my neck. She's the only piece that still matters. How do I keep fatherhood intact while severing the marriage? I don't know. All I know is I can't stay in that house anymore. Not with the ghosts. Not with the sickening images of her with him. Not with the shriveled remains of trust. I pushed down on the gas. The wind whipped past the windows, howling softly. The road stretched out into the distance, an invitation to find something new. A chance to escape the constant replay in my head. But I wonder if it's possible to escape a betrayal so deep, or if I'll spend the rest of my days driving this lonely road, chasing a freedom that might never come. Either way, I choose the open sky over the prison of my living room. I choose the roar of the engine over the silence of shame. I choose forward momentum, no matter what it costs. Not every pain is visible, but it devours you just the same. And sometimes the only remedy is to walk away and never look back. So I keep driving, my thoughts a tangled spool of anger, regret, and longing for the life I thought we had. The life that's gone. My foot stays on the pedal, pressing down, carrying me away from the charred rubble of what used to be my marriage. The phone buzzes again. I ignore it. The horizon lies ahead, wide and blue and indifferent. And I disappear into it,